Good morning. This is Leste Grace, a Sinahon, a BSed science student. So, for today's discussion, I'm going to present my microbial succession. This was conducted before pandemic strike. So, in nature, the community and ecosystem is shaped by the environmental factors, and ecological succession occurs when these environment factors are modified. Studies of succession have primarily focused on animal and plant communities, and few have focused on microbial communities. Microbes are the main decomposer of organic materials, and changes in microbial community are often associated with functional capabilities. For example, of microbes like fungi, algae, bacteria, and many more. So, furthermore, the diversity of microorganisms, particularly prokaryotes, offers the potential for adaptation to various habitats, including environments severely contaminated. So, in this lab experiment, we have two different types of bacteria will be experimented, partially aerobic and aerobic. We're using separated test tubes. Okay, aerobic organism or aerobe is an organism that survive and grow in an oxygenated environment. So highlight the oxygenated environment. While an aerobe organism is any organism that does not require oxygen for growth. So see the difference between two organisms, the aerobic organism and an aerobic organism. So aerobic organism survive and grow in oxygenated environment, while an aerobic organism does not require oxygen for growth. Okay, there is a separate result in order to identify which samples is more attracted to microbes. So the initial hypothesis suggested since partial aerobic has control object use like cotton plug and my chosen sample is popcorn. So let's see if there is a microbial succession, microbial growth in my chosen sample, the popcorn. Okay, let me introduce the objectives of this experiment. Okay, number one, describe the microbial succession that took place in specific chosen sample. Next is attribute the nature of the sample to the result of the data gathered and imply conclusion or recommendation regarding the safety of the chosen product. Okay, so let me present to you the materials I use in this experiment. The food or the chosen sample is popcorn or any organic sample. Then we will be put in a test tube with approximately 10 ml or grams. Next is cotton, foil, test tube, alcohol lamp, then autoclave, laminar flow, and biosafety cabinet. Okay, so the methodology. First is sterilized test tube, whether for aerobic and anaerobic, using the autoclave. Okay, so number two is acetically add the sample into the test tube in the laminar flow and biosafety cabinet. Number three, place in cotton plug, screw cup for partially anaerobic condition and aerobic condition, respectively using forceps and near a flame. Next is put in the incubator at 35 degrees for 2 weeks. Then 5, observe the changes in the sample and the growth of microorganism. If like for example, if there is a growth for microorganism like molds or bacteria, so like that. Okay, as you can see in the presentation, we start to day zero, the partially aerobic and aerobic. The partially aerobic has a cotton plug, while the aerobic exposed to oxygen. So let's see for 7 days if we have seen microbial growth. Then I will show to you the journey of this experiment from starting from day 0 down to day 7. Okay, as you can see from day 1, there is no sign of or microbial growth. Next to day 2, the same result. Nothing happened or nothing changes. In day 3, as you can see in aerobic, it has a tiny raindrops. Like, since it is exposed to oxygenated area, it has a controlled tool. So that's why there's a humidity happen in aerobic, while partially aerobic remain to the same with the day 0. Day 4, as you can see, partially aerobic is still nothing happened, but we're hoping there is a microbial growth. Then aerobic from day 4 still have tiny raindrops, because since it is exposed to oxygenated area. Okay, day 5, as you can see, the same result from partially aerobic. Nothing happened, nothing changed, but aerobic still have tiny raindrops. If you can see in the pictures, it has tiny raindrops, but I don't think it is seen. But according to based on my experience, based on the result I saw, it has a tiny raindrops. From day 5 and day 6, they have the same results. Then until day 7. Okay, so as you can see, from day 0 to day 7, partially aerobic, nothing changed, but aerobic, starting from day 0 to day 1 to day 2, nothing happened, but in day 3, as you can see, it has tiny raindrops cause of humidity, because it is since it is has no control plug or controlled use, since it is very exposed to oxygenated area. Okay, this is the results of my microbial resuccession. Let's see if this is very success. Okay, the variable that we're going to test is the level of moisture. Okay, as you can see in the presentation, the number of days, day 0 down to day 7. Day 0, it's still dry. Let's start from partially aerobic. As you can see in the presentation, partially aerobic, starting from day 0 to day 7, they have the same result. Nothing happened, nothing changed. Still, the popcorn has no sign of microbial growth. Then, the aerobic sample, as you can see in the result, from day 3, okay, from day 3, even to day 2, it gets drier. the level of moisture changed. It became drier, then up to moisten down until from day 7. Okay, so let's let's have a short discussion regarding with this experiment. Okay, partially aerobic, no moisture. Aerobic has moisture, as you can see from day 3 to day 7. It has a tiny raindrop since because it the aerobic is very exposed to oxygenated or oxygen place. It has no controlled tool, while partially aerobic has controlled tool that will stop the microorganism uh, to penetrate to the chosen sample. So partially aerobic from day 0 to day 7, there's no hint of superficial changes. Even to its color, to its smell, nothing changes. While aerobic has a hint of superficial changes because, as you can see from day 3, it shows tiny raindrops, but there's a chance or a hint of superficial changes. But as you can see in the result, there is no microbial growth or microbial succession. So in conclusion, for treatment number 1, partially aerobic, there is no change on its level of moisture. Therefore, there is no sign of microbial succession or succession occurred. For treatment number 2, aerobic, it shows a change of level of moisture from day 3 to day 7. Therefore, there is possibility of having microbial succession. However, based on the results gathered, there is no hint of microbial growth. Okay, in this experiment, the results show that dry foods or dehydrated foods have a preservative added to ensure that no bacteria can grow in any water that may refrain, and sometimes to protect the food's flavor. Okay. Both salt and sugar work by pulling water out of the microbes. So all bacteria need moisture or water form to grow and reproduce. So bacteria use the water to take in food and to remove unwanted waste products. So that's why the popcorn sample has no growth of microbes to both test tubes or samples because the environment of bacterium aren't enough to survive. So in this case, I'm not recommending you to have dry foods when you have a microbial succession, because as you can see in my chosen sample, you will not achieve your expected result in your experiment. So dehydrated foods or dry foods are safe to all microbial growth unless it is put to proper environment. Refrain from water areas and consume before the expiry date of the food. So that's it. That's it for today. So I hope that in this experiment you learn something from me, and see you on next lesson. Goodbye.